Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart Conversations here with Uma and Mr. 6'6". Hi, Six. Welcome in.
Hey, how you doing, Omar?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm very excited for tonight because tonight we have our first show in our new series called Navigating Change. Tonight, guys, we're going to be talking to two former military guys that are here on streams, and they're going to be sharing their stories about what it's like navigating change from the military world to the civilian world. So I'm very excited because where I live in Northern Virginia, there is a lot of what is it called? Transient people, when people are like passing through. Is it
Yep.
transient?
hmm
Yeah, there's a lot of people here from the military, and it's a different lifestyle, isn't it? Do you know
It
anything
is.
about it?
Yeah, to have to move around a lot. I know a lot of army brats who, it's kind of a lifestyle. You don't really make friends in a lot of places. I know you do a lot of bouncing around. You're never really settled. So a lot of those people end up being introverts because it's just kind of hard making friends when you're always on the move. So I'm
And then
excited
the
to hear what
training, the
that's.
actual, like, for people who go through the military, the training, the discipline, the routines, you
Yeah.
know, so different from civilian life. So I'm very
Yeah.
excited to hear what our guests have to say about their personal experiences with the military. So, guys, if you are watching live, if you can please put some clapping hand emojis in the comments, we're going to welcome our first guest. He can request the box, the guest box. He goes by the name here on streams of Recruit Southern. So, welcome in, Recruit Southern. Please request the guest box and let's have a heart to heart. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Uma and Mr. 6'6". How y'all doing this evening?
No
We're
good.
doing
Southern, how about yourself?
great.
Not
Welcome
too
in,
bad.
Southern. How are you feeling tonight?
Uh, a little tired. I mean, given that the day was a little long to a certain degree, not really much work going on. So
I got you. Well, we're gonna give you the full floor right now. So I'm gonna mute myself and Six will mute himself so that way we don't have any background noise to disturb you.
You
Please
got to
go
mute me over
ahead
here. I
and
can't mute myself over
tell us
here.
a little bit about transitioning from the military to civilian life. Let's start with your military background.
Go ahead and mute me, Omar. I can't
okay,
mute myself.
viewers and Uma and Mr. First Foot 6'6". First off, I went into the United States Marine Corps in 1998. I went through Paris Island boot camp in Beaufort, South Carolina. I spent 3 months and uh, 2 extra weeks of doing training. Uh, it was real intense. When you get to the depot down in South Carolina, right off the get go, the drill instructors are really intense on you. They want you to do everything fast. They want you to get in that intensity mode. Everywhere you go, you was in intensity mode. Uh, as far as the training facility goes, you spend 13 weeks at the facility. The last week is pretty much when you get called a Marine. The first 12 weeks you go through training. They got it set up in 3 cycles. The first cycle is they're going to tear you down. They're going to do everything in their power to make you feel like you're less than what you're worth. Drill instructor will make fun of you. They will do anything to break you. Uh, if you get family members to send you anything as far as food wise, snack wise, you may get a chance to eat it. You may not get a chance to eat it. I had a family member sent me a package of Oreo cookies, and the drill instructor actually made me sit there and eat the whole package of cookies without anything to drink while they was
Why?
making my platoon to do some physical training during while I was eating them.
That's crazy.
You said why did he do that?
Yeah, why?
Because it wasn't basically the thing was there's not enough there to supply 65 men in a platoon. When you go to boot camp for the Marine Corps, think about it, you got 65 people in a open area, just like it is in Full Metal Jacket, the movie. So basically, uh, you'll get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Drill instructor will bring in a trash can, whatever he feels necessary to get you out of that bunk in a hurry. And how many of you have to go to the bathroom first thing when you wake up in the morning when you get out of the bed?
Hmm.
Some in boot camp you don't have that luxury. And sometimes what they do is they'll call a side. They call starboard or port. One side will go to the restroom. The other side will go and do the daily things as far as making the rack, making this, making that. Once that you only get about 5 to 10 minutes to do that, and then you switch. So that was one thing that you have to get used to. Another thing is for me, since I was a snorer, I actually towards the end of boot camp, I started getting water poured on me since I was on the lower bunk because of the snoring issue. Yes. Uh, Other than that, it was a good wake up call as far as transitioning into the military. Uh, once you get uh, once you get out of boot camp, you earn that what they call Eagle, Gold, and Anchor in the Marine Corps. You go home for 2 weeks, and then for because you've been in boot camp the longest. I'm not sure what the other military boot camp are, but the Marine Corps is the longest boot camp of the service.
Really? I
So
didn't know
yes,
that. Wow.
so get transition into doing whatever through boot camp. You go home for 2 weeks, and then you go to basically go to basic infantry training, where you learn all about the infantry weapons. If you do anything other than infantry movement, you're only there for about a month. So I spent the whole month of April, or yeah, I spent pretty much the whole month of March and April in that facility. And the base is called Camp Geiger, North Carolina. So that's where they do a lot of the infantry training out there next to Jacksonville, North Carolina. So I spent I spent about a month there. Then I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, to do my what they call MOS training,
Hmm.
and I spent about 2.5 months there learning how to drive Hummers and do some 5 tons.
So
The training there was pretty simple.
was there ever a time that you wanted to give up doing the initial boot camp or infantry training?
No, I had no quit on me because I felt like I had something to prove to the people from back home that I could withstand the punishment and withstand the torture that some of the stuff actually put on the body.
Okay,
I mean, it's not Navy SEAL training, but we still get treated a little bit differently
right.
as far as
Okay.
that.
What was like your mental state going through all of that boot camp and everything else?
Uh, for me, honestly, I did miss some of my family. I miss my mom. I miss my dad. I miss going across the mountain and seeing my cousins at times. But for the most part, I had to look at it as at that time as a new career that I'm trying to build and make a new beginning, so to speak.
Right.
Because you got to look at some of the places that some people come from, especially where I came from. There was a lot of just fast food restaurants and uh, manufacturing plants once you got out of high school. Uh, although I did live about 45 minutes west of Charlottesville at the time, college was not an option for me. I wouldn't have been a good fit to go to college right after high school for myself. I didn't have that mental state go go to school and learn, say, architectural drawing or something like that.
Right. Hmm.
So, after all of this experience in the military, how long were you in the military for?
I served 8 years in the military.
What
Thank
made
you.
you decide to leave the military? Was it just the end of your term, or it was a something that was a big reason for you to leave, or were you told to leave?
So I was actually stationed out in California for 4 years. Enjoyed it out there. Uh, I made some wonderful friends out there. I still keep in contact with some of those. Matter of fact, the one friend that I have, he is a country music artist now. So I talk to him on Facebook every now and then. But for the most part, uh, I got married, and at the time, my wife at the time was not going to go off, say, to Japan for 4 years. So, and also I had one kid at the time. So it was my choice not to take the family, and if the family wasn't going to go, I wasn't going to go myself.
Right.
So then, when you left, I'm imagining that you coming back to civilian life, there must have been an adjustment. Do you remember a specific memory of when you came back to civilian life, what that was like for you?
It was a hard transition. I would say that. Uh, Not everybody is going to give you the playbook of life, and there's some things you got to do in reading and like for a job. I came out and I went straight to the unemployment office here in Virginia and stay hard at it, look for a job. But because me driving in the Marine Corps, that's what I wanted to do. That's what I felt like my service is providing a service as far as getting product to a customer or the consumer in that aspect. So uh, right off back, I didn't know the avenue of approach to take to get the CDL. So it took me. I didn't find a school until 2012, and I got out in 2007 to go to school and get my CDL. Uh, like I said, I got married. Uh, worked a couple not dead end job, but I tried working at the factory. That was not for me. Uh, they call it a machine operator. It wasn't a machine operator job. Basically, what it was is a basically you just put the components in a box and packed it up and put it on the skid. That was not for me. There was no leadership traits at that job that I could have learned from anybody. I spent 2.5 months at a company called Rubbermaid. It was one of the toughest, not toughest job, but it just wasn't the fit for me.
Right.
I went from there, and then I went into unarmed security uh, with a company. I spent a year and a half with that company, and then I had a terrible accident that nobody could nobody could replace what happened at this accident because it was just out of faith that the accident happened. In 2008, I had a benign tumor that ate the hill out on my right side. So from March of 2008 until September of 2008, I was laid up with nothing to do. Couldn't do nothing. Couldn't really hold a job at that point because I couldn't be on my feet.
Right.
And that right there really dropped me down even lower. So lucky enough, my wife at the time, her family owned a garage, so I went inside and worked at the garage for a little bit. I worked at the garage for uh, 6 years roughly, 2008 to 2012. I also worked at a job doing pallet replacement, and that job wasn't for me either because it had some employees at that location that just didn't care what they did. But overall, transitioning from the service to civilian select sector is difficult for some people. Uh, but
Let me ask you,
I finally found my calling.
did the military in any way help you once you got home, once you came back to the civilian life? Was there like an avenue or like an assistant or anybody
Yes.
who was checking in, making sure you were okay?
Well, not really anybody really checking in to see, hey, how you doing today? How you feeling today? Are you good? Excuse me. No, I didn't have anybody do that for me. From the VA, I did go through the VA. I did claim disability for service connected disability, and I was lucky enough to get something. Uh, but after once I found out that there was a driving school that I could go to, I used the post 9/11 bill to help pay for that schooling, and fortunately enough, I was able to get my license and able to get out there and get to a job.
That's smart.
That's dope.
Well,
I
we have
mean,
way more questions for you, but right
okay,
now we're going to bring in Joe Alex to share his stories, and let's see if we can draw some similarities and comparisons and differences between your stories, okay? So thank you so much,
okay.
Sutton. I'll let you jump out. And Joe Alex, please feel free to jump in. Welcome in here, everyone. It is Heart to Heart Conversations with Uma and Mr. Six tonight. We are starting a new series called Navigating Change, and we're talking to regular, everyday people who have to navigate changes in a variety of ways. Tonight, we have these two gentlemen sharing about their experiences going through the military and then readjusting back to civilian life. If you have questions for any of the gentlemen, please feel free to put them in the comments. All right, please put some clapping hand emojis and let's welcome in our second guest of the evening, Joe Alex.
Hey, Joe Alex.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Hi.
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's a little low, but we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like in the middle of work, so
Got you.
in the and be a little bit noisy, but I'll try to speak up as much as I can.
All right. If it does get really noisy, I'll just mute you because we are recording this show and we got to make sure. Yeah, he got his headset up. Okay. So just like Southern, we're going to let you just have a chance to go ahead and tell your story. Tell us a little bit about your military life. Let's start there and then we'll have some questions.
Um, well, I started my military career in 1994, right after I graduated high school. I went into the Air Force. I didn't go the Marine route. Um, excuse me. Um, let's see. So I went in 1994. I got, as a matter of fact, I went in 3 days after Christmas, the year I graduated from high school. So I went in, I did what they call delayed enlistment, which basically allowed me to take 6 months and get everything in order, tell everybody goodbye, and go off to basic training. Um, Basic training in the Air Force is at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. It's actually a pretty big base. Um, the the Air Force one is 6 weeks, so it's not as long as some of the other ones are.
Okay.
I did 6 weeks of basic training, very similar to uh, what Southern experience. The very first thing they do is they put you on an old Bluebird bus and they take you straight to the base. Start yelling at you the minute you get on the bus. You get out and they start their tear down process. They basically tear everybody down, try to rebuild them. They take you they try to take you down from what you were before you got there, and they try to build you up in the basically the mold that they want you to be when you're finished. So um, most of the branches all have very similar training styles. You'll be woken up at any time of the night, 4 or 5 in the morning usually. You go out and you do your your physical training. You'll run several miles. It's up to the drill instructor, or we called them TIs in the Air Force. They decide how far you're going to run. You'll usually run before you go eat breakfast. You go eat your breakfast, then you go do more physical training. Um, it's really it's really like, I'm looking back at it now, just thinking about some of the things, and you'll get your drill instructor or your TI, and sometimes they'll get funny. They'll try to, like, I remember one instance where our drill instructor, he came up to us. We were all out in formation. You go out in formation and you do the Pledge of Allegiance and you sing the Air Force anthem every morning. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning and you're out there singing. But I remember him asking specifically, how far did you guys want to run today? And one of the guys in the group said 13 miles. So we ran 13 miles out and 13 miles back.
Okay,
That's
just a
wild.
quick side question. What if you can't run the miles? Like, what happens?
You'll eat when you get back. They'll leave you. They will leave you out there.
Oh my.
You, you'll do it one way or the other. I mean, that's the whole process. The whole process is to take you out of that mindset of everything is given to you, and you've got to find a way to do it yourself. No one is going to give it to you. No one's going to do it for you. You've got to do it yourself.
Did you ever have a
So
breaking point?
uh,
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think I don't remember ever getting to a breaking point, because fortunately for me, I went through, when I was in high school, I had what they call ROTC, which is like a prep,
Mm-hmm.
a military prep thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was fully aware of what the military was like. Plus, I have military members in my family. My uncle was a Marine. My dad was in the Army. So I was 100% aware of what was going to happen when we got there, and I still chose it.
Right.
So there was no real breaking point. Although that day, that 13 mile, we we had a lot of fun with the dude that said that. But
I
but
bet.
outside of that, I mean, the basic training, from what I remember, was not very difficult. It wasn't very difficult at all. There's not, and that might be because the Air Force isn't seen as like the infantry. We're not going to be running first into anything.
Right.
We're gonna give you a ride over there on a plane, and
Drop you off
that's,
and then go on about your
yeah, we're gonna
business.
drop you off. We're gonna be over there. So there's a lot of jokes in the military circles about, how the Air Force is the IT of the military.
Yeah. Okay.
I
So
love that. What
So coming back, go ahead.
go ahead, Six.
I was just gonna ask. So coming back to civilian life, with it not being as strenuous as it seemed, it may have been for Southern. I mean, was your coming back to civilian life a lot easier, or was it just as different or stressful for you?
it was, well, because of the job that I had, it was a little bit more strenuous. I went in with the desire to do security police.
Okay.
So I chose law enforcement, went through the police academy at Lackland Air Force Base, and then I was chosen out of basic training to join a kind of like a joint team with the Army. They have the Airborne Rangers in Fort Dix, New
Right.
Jersey. I joined a little group from there, and we went. We actually got deployed a couple of times. Is when I was in was right at the tail end of the first Persian Gulf War.
Okay.
So we were kind of in the cleanup stages of that, but there were still certain units that were out there in Iraq, in the Persian Gulf, doing things. So I
Right.
went out there and helped them. And then the year I went in, we actually had we went to war with Bosnia. So I
Okay.
almost went there.
Oh
I did
wow.
not go. I didn't get deployed there. I stayed in for 12 years. I did go over during the second Persian Gulf War, so I got to see the tail end of the first one and the start of the second one, where we went out there and President George Bush had said that, oh, there was weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and we're going to find them.
Right.
Yeah, we went over there and we didn't find anything.
Okay.
But so the transition after that, yeah, it was still pretty difficult, and I think it's always going to be difficult for people in the military because you're going from a regimented lifestyle
Right.
to you're free to do whatever you want. Like you have people telling you what time you need to be up, what time you need to go to sleep, what time you're eating, what time you're going to be here, what time you're going to be there, and now you are, in a way, in the very beginning, it's a little bit disorienting because you don't have that
Right.
those people telling you what to do. You still have that mindset that I'm going to get this job. I got to be up at 9 in the morning. So you set your alarm, you get everything ready. But it's still a little bit difficult. When I got out, I because I had the law enforcement background, I thought, hey, it's going to be easy for me to get a job. I'll just go get a job at the police station.
Right.
I applied for 6 different police positions in the area that I was in, and never got hired for any of them.
Wow.
Got the interviews, went through the physical training for it, the interview process, and was told that I was too fresh out of basic training.
Okay.
So yeah, I did a bunch of odd jobs. I didn't stumble into trucking though until probably about 8 years ago. So
Eight.
I did, yeah, 8 years ago. I went to a truck driving school and got my CDL.
Okay.
So
And that's
um,
interesting that, well, I guess I'll get to that when we do bring Southern back up because you guys are both in the same. I have a question. How come they didn't accept you into the police academy, being that you're from the military?
um, I never got a real clear understanding. Like I remember one of them, the very first one that I went to. I applied to the highway patrol in Iowa where I lived because I was stationed in Omaha, Nebraska, and at the time. I got out and I just stayed there for a little while. I found an apartment. I figured I would stay. I liked the Midwest when I was out there, so I was like, okay, this is a nice place. I'm gonna stay out here when I got out. So I immediately went down to the highway patrol there and I applied, and they were like, okay, we'll get you set up with an interview. And when I spoke with the hiring officer, I can't remember if I don't remember if it was like the captain or the the highway patrol, whoever it was that was overseeing the position. I remember him bringing me in his office and said, "Listen, I would love to hire you, but I have one position and we need a female, so I can't hire you."
Wow.
And he told me, he said, I'll keep your application on file here. And I never heard back from them. And then I ended up leaving Iowa and moving back to Florida, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway at that point.
Right.
So yeah, I never really understood why they didn't. And it's possible it could have been me. I don't know. My interviewing skills might not have been.
Well, I'm so excited to dig into this with you and Southern. Southern, if you can request the box. And for those of you that are watching live, welcome in. This is Heart to Heart Conversations with Uma and Mr. Six. Today, we are starting our new series called Navigating Change, and we're talking to our two guests who have been through military life and are currently in civilian life, and we're asking about what that is like. Welcome back, Southern. So, I think my biggest question to you guys right now is I'm really, really interested in the mental aspects of all of this because it's not just like changing countries, changing jobs, changing relationships. This is like a whole lifestyle that you guys had to be very set, very dedicated, and tuned in, tapped in to one way of thinking, being, doing, where you guys both essentially said you didn't have free will. You know, you had to kind of do what you were told, to now coming back to a lifestyle where there is free will. What was that like for you? Did you Were you afraid of the freedom? Were you embracing the freedom? Um, were you still kind of like in that restrictive mindset immediately coming out of the military camps that you guys were in?
Well, I think for me, I was very much looking forward to it after spending 12 years and doing overseas duty and all of this stuff. I was very much looking forward to getting back to a civilian lifestyle. Even though I did find it a little bit hard to do, it was enjoyable.
Okay.
How about you, Southern?
I was looking forward to it because, like I said, I had a son in 2005. So here it is, 2 years. Uh, yeah, 2 years later, and I was able to be home with my son for the most part because when my son was born, I was with him for a little bit. Even though me and my wife was together, we actually were still apart to a certain degree because even though I was stationed in D.C. at the time, I had a house outside of D.C. and my ex-wife at the time was living back home here. So I mean, it plays very hard on you at times. But just like Joe Alex said, I was looking forward to it. I was looking for a new beginning. Uh, there are programs out there if you're lucky enough to find the right people. Sometimes the people that are doing the jobs out there to help uh, military personnel to get back into the civilian sector, sometimes they're not the right person to do the job.
Right.
Okay. Did either of
Um,
you have friends that you found that they told you or expressed to you that when they came back out into civilian life, that they actually preferred being in the military, wanted to go back to the military?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
I had, like I said, this buddy of mine. Uh, he didn't want to get out of the Marine Corps, but he had to get out of the Marine Corps due to medical issues. And he was over in Iraq and Afghanistan, and because of some of the stuff that he endured while at combat, basically, he was basically medically forced to get out of the service. He didn't want to get out. It's just a choice that he had to make.
Yeah.
um, with the change, I know a lot of times a lot of people in the military have um flashbacks. Um, were there ever moments or situations, times where you saw things that most people could never understand, that once you got back to the civilian life, it was kind of hard to get it out of your head? Maybe even still to this day, you kind of see some of those images, or have you found a way to block it out?
Uh, Me personally, I have a few images that still stay in my head from boot camp because of how some of the drill instructors treated us to prepare us for combat, basically. Because the Marine Corps was the first ones in, and every Marine is basically a rifleman at first. So you have to man your weapon and get in the fight. But there's a couple of things that has happened to me in boot camp that I still remember to this day.
Do you guys
Yeah.
feel
There's.
like there's some people? Oh, go ahead, Joe Alex.
I was just going to agree with him. I mean, being deployed into a war zone, you do get to see a lot of things that the average person doesn't get to see, and movies don't do it justice. It's not what you see in the movies. It's nothing like that.
Right.
It's
Really?
yeah, it's it is absolutely nothing like that. You know, I remember the first time when we so when I went over the first time, we landed in Kuwait, and it was the middle of the summer, and it was unbelievably hot.
Mhm.
Sand everywhere. Sand will get into every crevice of your body. It doesn't matter how well you're dressed, doesn't matter what you do. You'll sleep in sand, you'll breathe sand. It's horrible. It's just, yeah, it's definitely something I would not want to do again. But just the mental part of it, I don't, and maybe it's just that I'm good at compartmentalizing things and shoving it way back in my mind. I don't I don't see images or see things out here that bring me back to that time,
Right.
even if I'm watching like a movie or something like that. Like,
Right.
I don't have any of that.
Okay.
So thankfully, I know people that do, and it's not fun, I know, but
Right. Oma.
Can I ask, what were y'all reasons for going into the military? Because I feel like my personal opinion is that most people go into the military for the benefits, like that college education or that BA, the loan or the insurance or stuff like that. Do you think that, well, first, what were your reasons for going into the military? And the majority of people you saw there, do you feel from your personal opinion, they were in there for the right reasons?
Well,
but
from
for
go ahead, Joe
go
Alex.
ahead. Oh, I was going to say, for me, it felt, because I had family members in there, it felt like a legacy, like a I had to
Like a rite of
continue on that
passage.
legacy, a rite of passage. Yeah, yeah. So when I went in, it was a purpose. It was a sense of purpose for me to continue that legacy of and my family in the military. Um, yeah, I did experience people that were in the military for the what I felt were the wrong reasons. I saw people take advantage of the benefits that they offer you. People in basic training would get married just so they would get the extra money benefits as being a married couple. It's I mean, yeah. Uh, I went in with one mindset and came out with a different one.
Got it. What about you, Southern?
Yes, definitely. There were some people that did abuse some of the uh things that you get perks, so to speak, with being married. As Joe Alex says, you can live on base with the person, or you can live off base and get base and housing allowance. Uh, some people came in because they wanted to go to college, and then there was a free ride to go to college. Uh, but uh, the majority of the people that I was around, they came in because they wanted to get a good job and learn something for the most part. I went in, like I said, because there was nothing around the area that I lived in. Why did I choose the Marine Corps? Is because it's the hardest branch out there, and I felt like I had something to prove that I can toughen it up a lot more than most people can. And with me being in high school, I've wrestled for 4 years in high school, and I was like, oh man, this the Marine Corps is right up my alley because it's that physical fitness too. In the Marine Corps, the physical fitness test is 3 miles, uh, 20 pull-ups, and 100 crunches is a uh, PST for them. But for the most part, uh, it just wasn't nothing around where I was at for me to really engage and feel like I could make a good living at the time.
Right.
Interesting.
Would you encourage your children to join the military?
Absolutely not. I wouldn't necessarily encourage it, but I wouldn't discourage it. If my son decides that he wants to do it, I'm going to give him all of the information so that he has, because you can't it's a running joke with all of the branches. You cannot trust your recruiter. Your recruiter will
No,
lie
you
to you.
can't.
Your recruiter will lie to you to get you in the door because they get a bonus for every person that they get to sign up.
Right.
So you cannot trust the recruiter. So um, if my son decides that he wants to join the military, I'm going to give him all of the correct information on what it is and what he's going to be expected to do and let him make that decision based on that. If he still wants to do it from then, I'll take him down to the recruiting station and sign him up.
See, my son wants to go into the Marines because of his father. His father's former Marine, and I, as a mom, I am not okay with this decision. His decision is that he wants to go to college and then after college go into the Marines. So I'm hoping that he meets a nice little wifey in college and he changes his mind because I am terrified of that. I'm so glad you asked that question, Six, because I don't think
Well, here's
it's
the thing though.
Now,
With him, he'll be a little bit different. If he actually goes to college and gets a degree, he'll have the opportunity to go to officer training school, and
okay.
he can
yes.
go in as an officer, and
And that's in
his
here.
path will be completely different. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that gives me
Yes.
a little bit of
Officers. Yes.
that
Officers
As
make
far
about
as
twice as much as what we made.
okay. That's good to know.
What about you, Southern? Would you encourage it?
I would encourage it, but just like Joe Alex said, I would be right there beside him to see what the recruiter has to offer and be like, look, either you're going to offer him something good or we're going to take it back.
Right.
Uh, like he said, the recruiters are there to make a quota, so to speak. So they're going to try to do anything they can to entice you to sign that dotted line.
Right.
I want to thank you, gentlemen, so much for being brave enough to come on here and share your stories. I invite you to stay for the after show, which is about to begin. Um, I feel it's so important for us to talk about just not just about the military, but about navigating change. So before we let you guys, before we wrap up the show and end the show, I would like to ask you guys your opinions about what do you feel about each other's story, first of all, as you were listening to each other's story, what did you pick up about similarities, differences? What were your perceptions of that? And then I have one more final question. So I'm going to ask Southern, what did you pick up about Joe Alex's story that stood out to you? Maybe gave you a flashback or something? And the same question to
Well,
you, Joe
one
Alex.
one thing that stood out to me is that he went in pretty much the same year my sister graduated. So he, with that being said, back then the Air Force was a little bit more tougher than what they are now. Now, the Air Force, I know the Army does this. So what they do is, uh, if the person feel like they're being too stressed out, they'll give the drill instructor a card, and the drill instructor can't do nothing. But they only get one or two cards for that cycle, from my understanding. But for Joe Alex, as far as him going over to Iraq during the end of the first Gulf War, my hats are off to you because I know you've seen some stuff that I ain't seen, and just trying to picture what you did over there is amazing in the back of my mind, to be honest. As far as that, that's all I can say for right now.
All right, Joe Alex.
I think I think one of the things that I think about the similarities between how each branch tears you down. Yeah, he is right. The Air Force now they've got these cards that you can hold up if you're feeling too too uh too stressed out. You get these stress cards, and you get to take a little time out. We didn't have those. I remember our TI actually jumped on top of one of our dudes in basic training. So yeah, they can't touch you now, but they used to be able to touch you.
Wow. So it's really calmed down a lot.
Yes, it
Yeah,
has.
yeah, it has.
Wow.
My drill instructor one night they had we the Marine Corps celebrates its birthday around November every year. So when one of my drill instructor went out and had a little bit too much to drink one night, and he came back about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and he was ready to fight. He just wanted to fight uh, uh, a recruit. He just wanted to fight a recruit. He didn't care which one it was, and he took his duty belt off and he just threw it up against the wall. And for some reason, he just felt like he wanted to fight one of us in the platoon that night.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he could have had something going on at his house with his wife at that time, and he just wanted to take it out on the recruits. And I'm not knocking him for doing that, but to be a drill instructor, it's actually hard on you. It's hard on your family because when you go out here and try to train people to do what we do, it takes a toll on your family too. I mean, you got to figure when you out there training, when the drill instructors out there training recruits, so to speak, they're out there from say 5 o'clock in the morning until about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and then about 8:30 they have what they call the on duty staffing CEO, so to speak, or the on duty drill instructor. He spends the night in the bunk, and he's the only one there until 5 o'clock the next morning. So when it comes to training Marines, training anybody, it's hard on the drill instructors too.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, I
Six,
think
did you
uh, I
have
think
any
that
more
I think people don't realize that one of the things is that these drill instructors, they have to wear this face for whatever time that is that they're training that platoon or flight, as we call it in the Air Force. People don't realize that those drill instructors are probably some of the most pleasant people you'll ever meet.
Oh,
Oh, they cut out Joe Alex.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. They're probably some of the most pleasant people you'll ever meet. I remember going back after I graduated the police academy at Lackland Air Force Base and saw my drill instructor. He was training another set, and he spoke to me like I was his best friend. So it was really awkward and to see that going through
Right,
having him as a drill instructor and being as hard as he was on us to going back net and seeing him as a real person.
right.
all right. Six, that's it for questions from me. What about you? Do you have any other questions that you wanted to add?
One last question, kind of fun one. Maybe it can make you laugh a little bit. Me being 6'6", those recruiters were at the door in high school, and I always thought, I'm too big of a target to be on the front line. So, my question is, the big men in the military, could they take it, or were they some of the biggest punks and the first ones to quit? I just were the bigger ones the big tough guys like they make it in the movies, or were they really the biggest punks?
The ones in my experience, the ones in my group, they 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 were soft.
Six,
They were the
as
softest
they
of
would
them.
put it, just to put it this way, dynamite come in small packages.
Wow, that's crazy.
Fun size.
I mean, they had some guys at your side that could handle themselves, but if if the drill instructor really got intimidated or was intimidated to him, they wanted to they wanted to fight the instructor, but for the
Right.
most part, that's all.
Okay.
See, the tall guys in our in the Air Force, like you would have never gone to the military because we would have thought like you would have gone to play basketball. The
Okay.
tall guys in the Air Force are the guys that probably couldn't, probably had two left feet, couldn't get out of
Right.
their own way.
Right.
It,
Right.
yeah, they were the goofy ones.
And
Okay.
then one other thing I want to point out with him saying about this tall beef playing sports. Uh, I don't know about. I mean, there are sports programs in the military also.
Hmm.
Yep,
So with that being
boxing is
said,
huge in
if
the Marine
anybody
Corps.
remember, yeah, if anybody remember Mike Anderson that used to play the running back for the
Hmm.
Denver Broncos about 10 years
Hmm.
ago, not even that. He 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 played in the Marine Corps League football league out in Camp Pendleton. I didn't know it at the time, but he played out there. That's how he got noticed by some of the NFL scouts.
Hmm. Okay. That's cool.
That is
That's
pretty
it for
cool.
me, Oma.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for coming to the show. We will stop our recording now. And anybody in the comments, if you want to join us for the after show, please request the box and come on in. For those of you watching the recording, thank you so much for checking out the channel. We hope you enjoyed the show and we look forward to seeing your comments in the comments.